The first thing Nathan Cole gave me was not a welcome, a smile, or even the Wi-Fi password. It was a list of rules. I had been inside his Chicago apartment for approximately 40 seconds when he placed a single sheet of paper on the kitchen island between us. "What is this?" I asked. "House rules." I looked down at the page, then back at him. Nathan stood beneath the warm kitchen light, wearing a charcoal sweater and dark jeans, looking completely serious. "There are 12. There were 14. I simplified them. That should have been my warning. Instead, I remembered the suitcase beside my leg, the second suitcase still downstairs, and the fact that my previous housing plan had collapsed 4 days earlier. Sophie had promised me Nathan was reliable, quiet, and almost never home before 7. She had failed to mention that living with him apparently required an employee handbook. I read the first rule. Common areas stay clear of personal belongings. The second concerned dishes. The third concerned groceries. Rule 6 established quiet hours after 10 p.m. Rule 9 prohibited borrowing without permission. "Do you make guests sign this?" I asked. "Guests do not live here." That sounds like something a robot would say. Nathan folded his arms. "Do robots pay half the utilities on time?" "Probably." They seemed organized. His expression did not change. Not even slightly. I decided right then that Nathan Cole might be the coldest man in Chicago. Unfortunately, his apartment was perfect. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, large windows overlooking a quiet residential street. 20 minutes from the design studio where I had just started freelancing. My room was small but bright, and the rent was nearly $300 less than the other places I had toured. More importantly, I needed somewhere to live immediately. "Fine," I said. "I accept your constitution. They are guidelines. You numbered them. Numbers make things clear. That sentence explains a lot about you." He picked up one of my boxes before I could stop him. "Which room?" I pointed down the hallway. "Last door." He carried it there, set it inside, and returned without expecting thanks. That confused me more than the rules did. Over the next hour, Nathan helped carry 3 boxes upstairs, showed me where the circuit breaker was, explained the ancient radiator, and gave me the building manager's number. Every useful sentence came in the same calm tone. No unnecessary conversation. No questions about my family. No curiosity about my work. When everything was finally inside, he picked up his keys. "I leave at 7 tomorrow. Lock the deadbolt if you go out before then. Anything else?" Nathan glanced at my stack of sketchbooks already occupying one corner of the kitchen island. His eyes moved toward Rule 1 sitting beside them. I stared back. "Do not even think about it." For the first time, something almost resembling amusement touched his face. Almost. "Good night, Emily." Then he disappeared into his room. I carried my suitcase down the hallway and opened my bedroom door. Cold air should have been coming through the window. Sophie had warned me about the broken latch when she showed me photographs of the apartment. She said Nathan had been meaning to call maintenance for weeks. But the window was closed tightly. I tested the latch. New screws. New metal catch. Fresh marks around the frame. On the windowsill sat the packaging from a replacement latch, folded neatly beside a screwdriver. I looked toward Nathan's closed bedroom door. He had repaired it before I arrived. He had never mentioned it. That was the first contradiction Nathan Cole gave me. The second came when I realized the room was already warm. By the end of my first week living with Nathan, I had learned 3 things about him. He woke at 6:15 every morning. He drank coffee strong enough to qualify as a personality trait, and apparently, my sketchbooks were a threat to civilization. I discovered the first note on Monday. "Please keep personal items off the kitchen island." It was placed directly on top of my largest sketchbook. No greeting. No signature. Just 7 words written in painfully neat handwriting. I stared at it while drinking coffee, then found a yellow sticky note in my desk. "Thank you for this emotionally devastating correspondence." I placed it on the refrigerator and left for work. When I returned that evening, my note was gone. The next morning, another appeared beside the dishwasher. "Dishwasher runs after 9 p.m. I answered immediately. "I will notify the authorities." Wednesday brought a reminder about replacing the coffee filter. Thursday concerned recycling. By Friday, our apartment had developed its own diplomatic system. Nathan issued practical announcements. I responded with unnecessary drama. He never laughed. At least, not where I could see him. The strangest part was that we barely argued in person. Nathan came home around 7:30 most evenings, loosened his tie, reheated something sensible, and opened his laptop at the kitchen table. He worked as a senior financial analyst downtown, which explained his devotion to spreadsheets and possibly his suspicion of joy. I usually worked from the opposite end of the apartment, surrounded by pencils, digital tablets, reference books, and enough paper to violate Rule 1 permanently. We existed 10 feet apart without really sharing the same world. Then small things started happening. My desk lamp stopped flickering. I had mentioned it once while complaining to Sophie on the phone. 2 days later, the bulb was replaced. The loose cabinet handle disappeared as a problem overnight. When Chicago temperatures dropped below freezing, Nathan left a note beside the thermostat explaining which setting kept my bedroom warmest. He never wrote that he had done any of it. He simply removed problems and continued acting as though noticing people was beneath him. Saturday morning, I walked into the kitchen expecting an empty coffee pot. Instead, a fresh cup sat beside my laptop. Cream. 1 teaspoon of sugar. Exactly how I made it. Nathan stood near the sink reading something on his phone. "Is this mine?" I asked. "You are the only person here who ruins coffee with cream. You made it." "I made coffee. There was extra." I looked at the second mug in his hand, then at the perfectly measured cup waiting for me, and the sugar accidentally fell into it. Apparently. I smiled. That must have been terrifying. Nathan finally looked at me. "Do you always talk this much before breakfast?" "Only when emotionally moved." He returned to his phone, but I caught it. Barely there. The smallest movement at the corner of his mouth. I sat down before he could deny it. My sketchbook was still on the kitchen island from the night before. Nathan glanced at it. I waited for the reminder. Instead, he moved his laptop 6 inches to the left and sat across from me. No note. No complaint. Nothing. I opened the sketchbook and started working. For nearly an hour, neither of us spoke. His keyboard clicked softly. My pencil moved across paper. Snow drifted beyond the windows. It should have felt awkward. Somehow it did not. That evening, I found another sticky note on the refrigerator. Coffee filters are in the cabinet above the sink. Underneath it, in smaller handwriting, Nathan had added 3 words. Authorities were notified. I stood there smiling longer than I should have. The first time I realized Nathan Cole was capable of tenderness. He spent the entire next morning pretending nothing had happened. The deadline was Wednesday at 9 a.m., which sounded manageable when my client sent the revisions Monday afternoon. By Tuesday night, manageable had become 37 illustration changes, 3 color adjustments, and 1 email containing the phrase minor final request, which every freelancer knows is a threat disguised as punctuation. Nathan came home around 7:40 while I was working at the kitchen island. "Dinner?" he asked. "Deadline." That was not my question. Then no. He looked at the untouched sandwich beside my laptop. "That appears to be your answer. Please do not supervise my nutrition." I was observing. Financial analysts have a very aggressive definition of observing. Nathan loosened his tie and disappeared down the hallway. By midnight, the apartment had gone silent. Snow tapped softly against the windows. My eyes burned from staring at the screen, but I kept working. At 1:46 a.m., I told myself I would close them for 60 seconds. When I opened them again, sunlight was beginning to turn the windows gray. I sat upright, so quickly my neck protested. My cheek had been resting against my folded arm. The laptop was still open. More importantly, it was charging. I stared at the cable. I remembered the battery warning flashing red sometime after 1. I definitely did not remember plugging it in. A glass of water sat beside me. My sandwich had been moved into the refrigerator. A folded blanket rested across the back of my chair, one corner touching my shoulder. I looked toward the hallway. Nathan walked into the kitchen wearing a white dress shirt, fastening one cuff. "Good morning. Did you do this?" He glanced at the laptop. "Your battery was at 4%. That explains the charger." I pointed at the water. "Dehydration affects concentration." The sandwich. "Food spoils." I touched the blanket. "And this?" Nathan opened the cabinet and reached for a coffee mug. The apartment was cold. "You could have turned up the heat." I did. I looked at the thermostat. 72 degrees. Nathan usually kept it at 68. "So you turned up the heat and brought me a blanket?" "You make that sound dramatic." "Nathan, you have a written policy about dishwasher operating hours." He poured coffee without looking at me. "You fell asleep working. You could have woken me." You looked exhausted. Something in his voice changed on the last word. "Not much. Just enough." I stopped teasing him. "Thank you." Nathan finally met my eyes. For one quiet second, there was no sarcasm between us. No sticky notes. No house rules. His expression looked almost uncomfortable with being thanked. Finish your project, Emily. He picked up his briefcase and headed for the door. Nathan. He stopped. You forgot your coffee. He looked down at his empty hand, then back at the mug on the counter. I smiled. Apparently kindness affects concentration. He gave me that almost smile again. Do not get used to it. The door closed behind him. I turned back toward my laptop and noticed something else beside the keyboard. A fresh cup of coffee. Cream. 1 teaspoon of sugar. No note this time. I finished the project at 8:34 a.m. The client approved it before noon. But that was not what stayed with me. What stayed with me was 2:13 a.m., a charger I had not plugged in, a thermostat 4 degrees warmer than usual, and a man who seemed determined to make sure I was comfortable without ever admitting he had noticed I was cold. I stopped thinking of Nathan as cold the night I heard him say, "I will handle it," 4 times in less than 10 minutes. It was Sunday evening, almost 2 weeks after my deadline disaster, and we were both at the kitchen table pretending our shared silence had become completely normal. I was sketching concepts for a new client. Nathan was reviewing spreadsheets on his laptop. His phone rang at 8:12. He looked at the screen and answered immediately. "Hey, Rachel." I kept drawing, trying not to listen. That became difficult. "How much is the repair?" Nathan asked. A pause. "No, do not put it on your credit card yet." Another pause. "Send me the estimate. I will look at it tonight." His voice stayed calm, almost clinical. Then came another problem. Their mother's insurance paperwork had apparently been returned because something was missing. "Forward me the email. I will handle it." Rachel said something that made Nathan close his eyes briefly. "Your rent is due Friday, right?" Silence. "How short are you?" He leaned back in his chair. "Okay, I will handle it." By the time the call ended, Nathan had opened 3 new browser tabs, written 6 items in a notebook, and transferred money from his phone. He never once asked his sister how she felt. He simply attacked every problem until it had nowhere left to hide. "Is Rachel okay?" I asked. Nathan looked up. "She will be." That was not what I asked. "Her car needs work. Mom's insurance paperwork is a mess. Rachel had fewer hours at work this month." I heard. "Then you know." I set down my pencil. "I know what happened. I do not know if she is okay." Nathan frowned as if I had introduced an equation with missing numbers. "The problems are being handled." You really believe those are the same thing? If something is making her upset, fixing it helps. Sometimes. Usually. I studied him. The apartment suddenly made more sense. The repaired window latch. My desk lamp. The blanket. The charger. Even the ridiculous notes. Nathan did not ignore people. He translated them into problems he could solve. "You know people are allowed to be upset before you fix them," I said. His expression tightened slightly. "I know that. Do you? What exactly are you accusing me of?" "Nothing." I leaned back. "I think fixing things is how you care about people." Nathan looked down at his notebook. "Fixing things is useful." That was not a denial. "Emily." "Nathan." He exhaled slowly. "When my dad left, Rachel was 16. Mom was working 2 jobs. Somebody had to keep things organized." His voice remained controlled, but now I understood the control differently. Bills did not care whether anyone was overwhelmed. Rent still had a due date. Cars still broke. Insurance companies still wanted forms. So you became the person who handled everything. Someone had to. There it was. Not coldness. Training. Years of turning fear into lists because lists could be completed. "That sounds exhausting," I said. Nathan went still. I expected him to dismiss it. Instead, he stared at the table for several seconds. It was efficient. I smiled sadly. That is the most Nathan answer possible. His mouth almost moved. Almost. "Sometimes listening is helping," I said. "Even when you cannot fix anything." Nathan looked at me as though he wanted to argue, then stopped himself. His phone buzzed. A message from Rachel appeared across the screen. Nathan reached for it, paused, and looked at me. Then he typed something. "What did you say?" I asked. I asked if she wanted to talk. I smiled. "Look at you. Do not make this unbearable." Too late. His phone rang 30 seconds later. Nathan stood and carried it toward the living room. Before answering, he glanced back at me. That night, for the first time, I understood the man behind the rules. Nathan did not build walls because he felt nothing. He built systems because somewhere along the way, caring had become another responsibility he was terrified of failing. I should have known Nathan would eventually take helping too far. 3 days after our conversation about Rachel, my drawing tablet began disconnecting every 20 minutes. For a freelance illustrator, that was less a technical inconvenience and more a personal nightmare. I had a client review scheduled Friday, so I searched online and found a local computer technician named Mark who offered home appointments. His price was reasonable. His calendar had an opening Thursday evening. Problem solved. Or so I thought. I mentioned the appointment to Nathan over breakfast because Mark would need access to the apartment. Nathan stopped pouring coffee. What company? Lakeview Computer Repair. You checked the reviews? Yes. How many? I stared at him. Enough to successfully operate as an adult. Nathan said nothing, but his expression told me the conversation was not finished. I left for a client meeting downtown and forgot about it. At 4:18 that afternoon, an email appeared on my phone. Appointment canceled. I called the company. They told me someone from my number had requested cancellation through the online confirmation link. I knew exactly who had access to the laptop where that email had been opened. I walked into the apartment shortly after 6 and found Nathan at the kitchen island. Did you cancel my appointment? He looked up. No hesitation. Yes. The calmness of that answer irritated me more than an excuse would have. Why? The technician has multiple complaints under a previous business name. So I checked further. Customers reported unexpected charges and incomplete repairs. And you decided to cancel him. I prevented you from wasting money. I set my bag on the chair. Carefully. You should have told me. You were in a meeting. You could have texted. I found another repair shop with better reviews. Nathan turned his laptop toward me. A page was already open. Address. Hours. Pricing. Of course it was. He had solved everything. Nathan, you do not get it. The place is 12 minutes away. That is not the point. His expression changed. Then what is the point? I took a breath. I did not want to shout. I wanted him to understand. You were right about him. And you were still wrong. Nathan stared at me. That makes no sense. It does. You found information I did not have. You protected me from making a bad choice. But instead of giving me the information, you made the choice for me. Because the answer was obvious. To you. Emily, why would you knowingly hire someone with those complaints? Maybe I would not, but I should have been the person who canceled. Nathan leaned back slightly, and I saw the confusion beneath his certainty. I was trying to help. I know. My voice softened. That is why this matters. He said nothing. Helping me does not mean deciding for me. The apartment became completely quiet. The refrigerator hummed behind us. Traffic moved 6 floors below. Nathan looked toward his laptop, then closed it. You are right. I had prepared myself for an argument so thoroughly that his answer left me speechless. What? I should have sent you what I found and let you decide. He paused. I am sorry. No explanation. No defense. No reminder that he had saved me money. Just an apology. Somehow, that affected me more than winning the argument. Thank you, I said. Nathan nodded once. Then he pushed his phone toward me. The other repair shop is there if you want the number. He stopped himself. Or I can leave it alone. I looked at him. That tiny correction felt bigger than it should have. Send me the number. Okay. My phone buzzed seconds later. Nathan returned to his coffee. I opened the message and smiled despite myself. The man who had spent years solving everyone's problems had finally encountered one he could not fix with a checklist. He had to learn where helping ended and trust began. I thought Nathan would need a week to change, but it took him 3 days. Not completely. Not magically. Just enough for me to notice. On Monday evening, I came home with 2 grocery bags and found him in the kitchen putting away his own dinner. He looked at the bags, then at me. Do you want help? I stopped. What? He pointed toward the groceries. Do you want help carrying those? I stared at him. You are asking? Yes. Instead of just taking them, that is what I am supposed to do now. I smiled. I can carry them. Nathan nodded and went back to his food. That was it. No argument. No disappointed expression. Just a question and an answer. It should not have felt important. Somehow it did. The next morning, my printer stopped working. I found Nathan standing beside it when I came into the kitchen. I think the connection is loose, he said. I can fix it. He paused. Do you want me to? I laughed before I could stop myself. You are really committed to this. You said I needed boundaries. I said you needed to ask. I am asking. I handed him the cable. Help. He fixed the connection in less than 2 minutes. Then he stepped away. He did not reorganize my desk. He did not tell me where I should keep the printer. He simply returned to his coffee. I watched him for a moment. Thank you. You are welcome. Something had shifted between us. It was small, quiet, but real. That evening, I came home frustrated after a difficult client call. I dropped my bag beside the couch and sat down without taking off my coat. Nathan looked up from his laptop. Do you want help? Or do you want me to listen? I almost laughed. You memorized the line. I am trying. I looked at him. The man who once treated every problem like an item on a spreadsheet was waiting for my answer. Listen. Nathan closed his laptop. Completely. Okay. So I told him everything. The client had changed the project again. My payment was delayed. I was afraid the freelance work was not stable enough to support me long term. I expected advice at least 3 times. None came. Nathan simply listened. When I finished, the apartment felt strangely quiet. That sounds exhausting, he said. I looked at him. That is all. You asked me to listen. You did. He nodded. Then I listened. My chest tightened in a way I did not understand. Thank you. Nathan opened his laptop again, but before looking at the screen, he added, You do not have to solve everything tonight. I stared at him. He had no idea what that sentence meant to me. Maybe he did. I went to my room and closed the door, then stood there for several seconds with my hand still on the knob. I had spent weeks trying to understand Nathan. Now I was beginning to understand myself. I liked the way he remembered small things. I liked the coffee. I liked the repaired window and the replaced light bulb. I liked that he had learned to ask instead of assume. Most of all, I liked that. When I said I needed him to listen, he stayed quiet long enough for me to hear my own thoughts. The next morning, Nathan left for work before I woke up. On the kitchen island, beside my coffee, I found a sticky note. No instructions. No reminder. Just 6 words in his careful handwriting. I am learning. Be patient with me. I held the note between my fingers and smiled. Then my phone buzzed with an email from a Chicago design studio offering me a larger freelance contract. It was the kind of opportunity one had been waiting for since I moved into the apartment. I should have felt only excitement. Instead, I looked down the hallway toward Nathan's closed door and wondered why the first person I wanted to tell was him. I told Nathan about the design studio offer over dinner, which was already unusual because Nathan and I rarely ate at the same time. He had made pasta. I had made the mistake of saying I could cook, so he handed me a cutting board and immediately discovered that I considered measuring ingredients an unnecessary suggestion. The contract is for 6 months, I said, stirring the sauce. They want me to work mostly from home, but there are 2 days each week at their downtown office. Nathan looked up from his plate. That is good. It is. I smiled. You sound almost excited. I am. You do not look excited. I am an analyst. We have limits. I laughed. Then I told him the part one had not yet told Sophie. The studio was offering me enough work that I could afford my own apartment. A small studio near the river. Better light. A separate workspace. No shared kitchen. No house rules. Exactly what I had wanted when I first moved in. Nathan listened quietly. He asked what the rent was, how long the lease lasted, and whether the commute would be reasonable. Then he nodded. You should take it. The words landed harder than they should have. That is all. What do you want me to say? I looked down at my plate. I do not know. Nathan studied me. Emily, you told me when you moved in that you wanted your own place eventually. I know. This is what you wanted. He was right. Completely right. So why did I suddenly feel as though I had received bad news? You are not going to miss having someone to argue with about coffee filters. I asked. I will recover. I smiled, but it did not last. Over the next week, Nathan helped only when I asked. When I needed advice about the lease, I brought the paperwork to him. He read every page carefully, pointed out the sections I should question, and then handed the documents back. You decide. Those 2 words stayed with me. A month earlier, he would have called the property manager himself. Now he simply waited. Moving day arrived on a gray Saturday morning. My new apartment was 20 minutes from Nathan's place, close enough to downtown for the studio, and far enough away to feel like a new chapter. I packed the last box and carried it toward the door. Before leaving, I looked around the apartment where everything had changed without either of us planning it. The repaired window. The kitchen island. The refrigerator covered in sticky notes. Nathan stood near the doorway with my final box. You missed one, he said. I looked behind me. A single sheet of paper remained on the kitchen island. The original house rules. I walked over and picked it up. 12 rules. all written in Nathan's precise handwriting. I turned the page over and found a blank space beneath them. I took a pen from my bag and wrote one sentence. Rule 15. Try being human occasionally. Nathan read it. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then the corner of his mouth lifted. A real smile this time. That is not a rule. It is now. He looked at the page again. I will consider it. That sounds promising. He handed me the box. You should go before you miss your moving appointment. I took it and walked toward the door. Then I stopped. Nathan? Yes. I looked back at him. Thank you. His expression softened. For what? I almost listed everything. The window, the coffee, the charger, the blanket, the listening, the way he had learned to ask before helping. Instead, I said, for making this place feel like home. He did not answer immediately. When he finally did, his voice was quiet. You did that. I left before I could let him see how much those 3 words affected me. My new apartment was brighter. It was quieter. It was mine. That first evening, I unpacked my sketchbooks and placed them across my own kitchen counter. No rules. No reminders. No second coffee waiting beside my laptop. I should have felt completely free. Instead, when the clock reached 9:30, I found myself looking toward the empty doorway, wondering what Nathan was doing at that exact moment. I had spent weeks learning how to live with him. Now I had to learn how to live without him. The apartment was exactly as I had imagined, and that was the problem. By Monday morning, I had unpacked my clothes, arranged my sketchbooks on the new kitchen counter, and found the perfect corner for my drawing tablet. The windows faced east, so sunlight filled the room before 8. The building was quiet. The kitchen was mine. There were no house rules taped to the refrigerator. No carefully measured coffee. No voice from the other side of the hallway asking whether I had remembered to lock the door. I had everything I wanted. So why did the silence feel so loud? I noticed it first at 9:30 that night. I was sitting at my desk when I looked at the clock without meaning to. 9:30. The same time Nathan usually returned from work. The same time he would place his keys on the small tray beside the door, loosen his tie, and ask whether I had eaten. I stared at the clock until 9:34, then forced myself back to work. This was ridiculous. I had not moved across the city to become sentimental about a roommate. I had moved because I wanted independence. I had wanted my own space. I had wanted a life where nobody reminded me to replace coffee filters. So I made coffee without anyone else's instructions. I left a sketchbook on the counter. I even bought the exact coffee filters Nathan used, although I refused to admit why. On Wednesday, Sophie came over after work. She walked through the apartment, looked at the sunlight, the new desk, and the stack of unopened art supplies. This place is perfect, she said. I know. You do not sound happy. I am happy. Sophie raised an eyebrow. Emily. I sighed. I miss him. The words sounded different once they were outside my head. You miss Nathan. I miss the apartment we shared. Sophie gave me a look. That was not what you said. I looked toward the window. I miss him. She smiled gently. Then tell him. I cannot just show up. Why not? Because I moved out. That is not a restraining order, Emily. I laughed despite myself. But I did not call him. Not that night. Not Thursday either. Instead, I worked until almost midnight and tried to convince myself that missing someone was simply another phase of adjusting. On Friday, I received a message from Nathan. Just one sentence. Did you get settled in? I stared at the screen for nearly a minute. I typed, deleted, and typed again. Yes. It is great here. His reply came quickly. Good. I put the phone down. 5 minutes later, I picked it up again. That was all. No request to visit. No hidden invitation. No attempt to pull me back into the apartment. Somehow, that made me miss him more. Nathan had finally learned how to respect my choices, even when my choices meant losing me from his daily life. That evening, I opened the box where I had kept the old house rules. 12 rules. One added in my handwriting. Rule 15. Try being human occasionally. I smiled. Then I noticed something written beneath it in Nathan's handwriting that I had never seen before. I turned the paper toward the light. His words were small and careful. Rule 16. Ask instead of assume. I sat there for a long time. Nathan had not asked me to stay. He had not asked me to come back. He had not tried to decide what I should do. He had changed the one thing I had never expected him to change. Himself. I closed my eyes and thought about the last night in that apartment. The way he had told me, I made the place feel like home. The way he had let me leave without making me feel guilty for choosing something better. Then I looked around my beautiful, quiet studio and finally admitted what the silence had been trying to tell me all week. I did not want my old apartment back. I wanted the person who had been waiting inside it. And for the first time, I knew that if I went looking for Nathan, I would not be going back as his roommate. I would be going back as someone who had finally chosen him. I found Nathan at the cafe across from his office the following Friday evening, sitting alone near the window with his laptop closed and a cup of black coffee untouched beside him. For a few seconds, I stood outside wondering if I had made a mistake. Then he looked up and saw me. His expression changed so subtly that anyone else might have missed it. I did not. He stood as I approached. Emily. Hi. Brilliant opening. I had rehearsed 12 better ones in the car. All 12 had disappeared. Nathan glanced toward the empty chair. Do you want to sit? Yes. I sat across from him. The same kind of table. The same quiet space between two cups. Somehow, everything felt different. I got your message, he said. I know. You said your apartment is great. It is. He nodded. Good. I looked at him. That is all you were going to say? You said it was great. Nathan. He waited. I took a breath. I miss you. His expression softened, but he did not rush to fill the silence. I miss you too. For words. No dramatic speech. No carefully prepared explanation. Somehow, they were enough. I looked down at my hands. I thought moving out would make everything simpler. Did it? The apartment is simpler. He almost smiled. That was not my question. I laughed quietly. You are learning. I have had a good teacher. I shook my head. You are still impossible. Probably. The waiter brought us menus, and for several minutes we talked about ordinary things. My new studio contract. His work. Rachel's car, which had finally been repaired. The new window latch at the old apartment. The conversation felt strangely familiar, but there was no kitchen island between us, no house rules, no lease, and no reason either of us had to be there. That was what made it matter. Eventually, Nathan placed his menu on the table. Can I ask you something? You are already asking. Fair point. He smiled. Then his expression became serious. Would you have dinner with me? I blinked. We are already having coffee. Dinner. He paused. A real dinner. Friday night. No roommate responsibilities. No apartment issues. No fixing anything. I smiled. What if I need something fixed? Then you call someone else. That sounds painful for you. I will survive. I looked at him for a long moment. This was the man who once believed every problem needed an immediate solution. Now he was sitting across from me without trying to control the answer. 7. I asked. Nathan's eyes warmed. 7. And where? I know a small Italian place near the river. Do I need to bring the house rules? Absolutely not. Shame. I added one. His eyebrow lifted. What is it? I reached into my bag and pulled out the old sheet of paper. 12 original rules. My rule 15. His rule 16. I placed it between us. Rule 17, I said. Do not assume you know what the other person needs. Ask. Nathan read it quietly. Then he looked at me. I think I can follow that one. You better. He folded the paper carefully and handed it back. Then I have one question. What? Would you like me to walk you home? I smiled. Yes. We left the cafe together beneath the soft Chicago evening lights. Nathan did not choose the route for me. He simply walked beside me while I chose the way. For months, I had believed living with Nathan taught me how to understand him. I was wrong. It taught me how to understand myself. I had not needed him to become warmer. I had needed him to learn that love was not about fixing every problem, making every decision, or protecting someone from every mistake. And Nathan had not needed me to break down his walls. He needed someone willing to show him that he could open a door without losing himself. When we reached my building, he stopped at the entrance. 7, he said. 7, I agreed. He turned to leave, then looked back. Emily. Yes. Thank you for coming back. I smiled. I did not come back to be your roommate. His smile finally became completely unguarded. I know. And for the first time, I understood that the best kind of love does not ask you to give up your independence. It gives you a reason to choose someone while remaining completely free to choose yourself.